Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing an ink from the brand Conklin, and that ink is Denim Blue. Conklin is a brand with a long history. They have a range of inks that they have made for them, and today we're looking at a set of this one. It's a lovely sort of, I suppose a grey blue, almost in the blue-black family. It has like little green tendency leanings in there. We're going to look at it on some different kinds of paper and have a bit of a chat about it. So we'll start with it here on Tomoe River. This is 68 GSM Tomoe River paper, the good old stuff we know and love. I had this in two pens, a TWSBI Go Extra Fine and a Conklin All-American with the Omniflex nib, which I've enjoyed having a bit of a play with. Let's get started. I did a little bit of the flexi writing there so you can see it, nice shading. Let's talk about this ink. 5 points. So the company has a long heritage. Conklin was around quite a while ago and kind of lost its way a little bit, and was sort of been rejuvenated in the last few years, and a number of pens like the Durograph and the All-American and things like that have really relaunched it, and it's now kind of run by Yafa brands in the US, who look after things like Monteverde as well. The ink range has 10 colors, sort of stock standard colors, really kind of, not, I wouldn't say simple colors, but because this isn't a simple color, it's kind of complex as well, but like good stock standard colors, I suppose. They are made for Conklin in Europe. You can see here on the, this is the box the ink comes in. You know, it's got a bit of history for more than 120 years. Conklin is striving in the spirit of bold innovation while providing high quality fine writing instruments and premium inks around the world. A little bit of information there, you can have a bit of a read. And on the bottom it says made in the UK package, in the EU, packaged in USA. So Denim Blue, 60 mils of ink. I'll talk about that in a little bit more. So the next point I have here is that it's got a vintage feel. Now that is both through the ink colors and things like that, but also that's kind of like what Conklin have gone for with things like the Durograph pens. They have a vintage kind of feel, but with the inks here, the box is kind of nice, very simple. The bottle is a glass bottle, 60 mils, a good size, really sort of vintage style label there, which I really think is quite nice. And then the metal cap and all that kind of stuff. So it's got a good old-fashioned, vintage feel, and that's really appealing on a number of levels, because I think that sort of really speaks into the Conklin brand. The last point I've put here is that it's got good water resistance. Now, if we look at the, the water test here, this is where I do a triangle and then I move it with a water brush. This is where I do the crosshatch and everything, and I put water on there and then I clean it up. You can see most of the detail has been kept. You can read that perfectly clearly. Well, apart from terrible handwriting, 1, 2, 3, 4, the triangle's barely moved. You get a good amount that sort of stays behind. It's really nice to see. It's not advertised anywhere as being permanent or waterproof or anything like that, but you can see here the water tests, it has done quite well. Let's talk about the performance. I said it's got a nice color profile. It sort of goes between these grays and blues and almost greeny sort of tones, which is quite nice. It's got nice depth and saturation. I said it's got a medium dry time, so after 20 seconds, it's still a bit wet. Some good shading, fair to average performance on lower end paper, which we will look at in a minute, and then excellent flow and good saturation. It feels nice to write with this ink, and then not for water art, and that's my own personal sort of assumption. You could use this, like, if you wanted to like have sharp lines, this is something you could use, but like if you wanted to like move it around like watercolor, this isn't kind of the one that's ink that's gonna work for that necessarily. Extras I put here is some shade, and particularly in super wet pens, you're going to get less shading. It's the way with most inks, of course, but like you can see there with the Omniflex nib, we don't get a whole lot of shading, but with the extra fine TWSBI, where it's a little bit drier, we just get a nice bit of shading, particularly where the ink pools. Low sheen, you can see like a hit of this sort of like copper red sheen here on the coloring card, but not a lot in the writing. There's no shimmer, but it's got excellent water resistance for an ink that is not promoted as being waterproof. I think it does very, very well. Let's look at it. First we look at the performance here on the reverse of this page. Nothing comes through. It's all very nice and clean, which is good to see. And of course, all the lines are held really nice and tight, even in the flex nib there. Like it's not a super wet ink, so it doesn't sort of feather or spread too much. Looking at it here on, this is the lower end student notepad paper from Spyrex. This is a very, very flimsy light paper from a lecture pad. There's a bit of feathering going on there. It's not the tightest lines. And on the back, we see, sort of average, if we compare it to these other sort of diamine inks, we see an average kind of bleed through. Like that Conklin All-American with the Omniflex nib is quite wet. But if you see like the extra fine here, which in comparison to the other extra fines, it does fairly well actually. I think it performs very, very nicely. Now on 80 GSM copy paper, this is Reflex Office copy paper. It looks nice on this side. The lines hold a little bit tighter. It's a more uniform, dull sort of grey, green, blue, black kind of colour. Probably grey. Denim blue, I think, is an odd name in a lot of ways because it doesn't look like a denim-y sort of colour. Personally, I like it. Well, a traditional cliched denim color. Once again, the performance looks okay here. It performs on par with sort of those other inks from things like Diamine. And then lastly here on Rhodia, see the nice dark rich color there in the swatch. It's beautiful. Nice shading here. We start to get some of that shading coming through a lot nicer on this paper, of course, being Rhodia. And here, if we look at the water test, that's where I put water and let it dry. It just sort of balloons out, but like we absolutely keep the lines. It's clear as to what was there. It just sort of moves around a little bit off the top. And the reverse of this, we get nothing coming through in the writing. A little bit in the swatch there, which like in comparison to Diamine might be a bit of, a bit more, or considerably more. But in the writing, still absolutely nothing, which is great. Yeah, really great to see there. Looking at the chromatography, exactly what we'd expect. Nice, dark, rich line held behind, similar to that water test. And then a little bit of those lighter greys and into the purple and blue at the top there, sort of coming through. But a lot of it is held back behind. Okay, let's do color comparison here. So we've got Conklin Denim Blue. Now, I wanted to show this in comparison to a couple of sort of stock colors that it kind of has things in common with. So firstly, I wanted to show it alongside a blue, just so we see how gray that ink is. Then I put it alongside a black, that's Waterman Serenity Blue, and this is Carbon Black from Platinum. You see, like even in the darker sections, it's not still quite as black, so it's a bit of blue grey hanging around in there. And then I wanted to show it alongside a grey, so I picked Diamine Earl Grey because I think it's got some interesting sort of tones in it, just for the sake of comparison. You see, it's a lot greener grey as opposed, or bluey green grey, as opposed to like the more purpley grey there. And then a Robert Oster ink, which I always put it alongside. I've chosen Robert Oster Night here from the Day and Night set that he put together. A nice dark grey with some sort of bluey tone, green grey tones as well. But Denim Blue being a lot lighter, and this is where we see that it is considerably more blue. If you put it alongside the grey here as well, you see it's a lot more blue than like a traditional grey. So let's talk the price. It's a 60ml bottle, and in the US, it retails for $15. Now, you can sometimes get this a little bit cheaper. As I'm filming this video, I've seen it on a couple of websites for $13.50, but the regular retail price is $15 US. Now, it is available through some Australian retailers and UK retailers. The price will depend on the retailer and their agreement, but the US price is $15, and that is, as I said, for this 60ml bottle, and that goes across the entire range of their inks, and they've got some beautiful greens and things as well, really interesting colors. So the score, I've given this 4 out of 5. I think this is actually quite a nice ink. I'm impressed with it. It's got a nice interesting color that sort of changes, and it's kind of it's got some depth and all that kind of stuff. It's got a good performance, and I think the price is actually pretty fair. 60ml for $15 is a pretty decent price. So this was Conklin Denim Blue. Great to review an ink from Conklin. This is a brand that is sort of covered by the same parent company as Monteverde, and I've reviewed a lot of Monteverde inks, and I personally, this is obviously nothing I've found anywhere, but I would assume they're probably made by the same people, seeing as though they're also made in Europe. And so it's nice to see, what Conklin have done and what they've gone with, sort of more vintage kind of feel, which I really, really appreciate. So this was, as I said, Conklin Denim Blue. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce, and please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here. Or you can drop me an email, which is also listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there is a way you would like to support this channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. Now, a big thank you to to the distributor here in Australia for Conklin and all the Yaffa brands for providing this ink for this review. It's support from companies like this that make my channel possible, and I'm very, very grateful. So thank you so much. And to you, my wonderful audience, enjoy your writing, enjoy your inks, and I'll talk to you soon.